Hello everyone, welcome back. So time for a new update. Because the last update was in late December, so because of that I skipped January, the end of January, to have my present update next update now. But I put up a video each month until now, so let's get right into it. This period of time, I would call it thresholds, because important threshold took place for me personally and in general for the rest. So that was, let's start with late December, immediately after I finished the other update. So late December 23rd or 24th, I reached another threshold, obviously, in energy. For a few weeks before that moment, I felt like my body, like the energy of my body was growing so much that it didn't fit my form anymore. It's just like it's like too much. And I've been saying this for many times I mentioned this, that I have times when I reach the next level and the energy increases, that is like the energy is trying to, the energy is a size 10 and it's trying to fit a 2-size body. So it's really uncomfortable. It's like impossible, basically. But in time that thing is integrated and the body is transformed and changes. So that's why all these crazy changes are happening. But we're going to go into that a little bit later. But going back to the actual threshold, what happened is that this next level reminded me of when I reached 31. When I was 31, it was a moment where it was another important threshold, where I felt like it was a physical thing, how my energy really filled my entire body, it's like inhabited my entire form. And because of that, I felt like we were on par, my form and my energy, and it felt solid stability and sense of comfort. And also turned into like more confidence. Well, I've always been a confident person, but I never really felt like I really had support for the things that I did. And that moment was a very important moment to feel comforted by inhabiting your bodies, like the energy inhabiting your form. Have enough of that. So this reminded me of that moment. It's the next level. And because it's the next level, it allows me, I've been saying this, that my awareness is shifting all the time and allows me to see beyond this reality and beyond what most people understand, what life is and how things work. And also it allowed me to see myself from a different perspective, from another different perspective. And this has to do with certain things that not just that I not overlook, but like not appreciated about myself, because I'm somebody that I don't really complain about the obstacles and challenges. That I don't like to do that. Of course, I will challenge those that actually, I'm somebody that I fight for justice, but when it comes to me, into my own challenges and hardships, I don't necessarily like to talk about those things. I just like to go through those things without talking too much, and then I can say, okay, I went through this, and then it's behind me. But reaching this moment has made me see the value of certain things that I've done until now, for which there was no support, and that because of the constant noise from whatever different areas that were undermining my voice and my whatever. Anyway, so that was a constant challenge in my life for many, many years, and I just had to soldier on for a very, very long time. And it's like reaching this level, it just like I was equipped with another piece of, not just the awareness, but the tools of like how to handle certain things and then move on past certain things that until very recently were still very challenging. And this particular event was also marked by something really funny. Is like it had also like a physical translation. It started like in the middle of the night. I just was trying to fall asleep, and as per usual, when my state changes, because I'm not always here, even if I am awake, I had my eyes closed, but I wasn't asleep. I was trying to, but I wasn't asleep. And I just felt like how my body was growing, like literally my body was growing. It's like, how is this possible? And then I heard this pop. It's like my head hit an invisible ceiling. And I was like, and then I opened my eyes. It was just like I was in bed, but I had enough space. I have a big bed, so it was weird. But then again, it made sense for what happened, what I felt all these weeks. And this was like a culmination of what was happening in the last weeks previous to this particular moment. So that was really funny, and it's like it was trying to show me that in a physical way, as much as physical as possible, to understand that this is a real thing when you actually reach another threshold in energy, and how this affects also your physiognomy and all these things, which I'm going to talk about later also. It has to do with the distortion and why certain things don't work as they should. But this particular event also reminded me of the layer of, I call it a positivity tilting layer, which showed up in my life in the spring of 2015. And it was like popped up and around me around that time. Actually, that was just before doing the process. Yes, and it felt like also like this moment, like it was another layer. That's how the best I can describe it. It was another layer that popped up and around me, which allows me to have a different, another level of awareness once again. So yeah, that was very, very interesting. Usually I'm shown a lot of things, but because this level of reality, it's not just one reality, there's more intertwined at the same time. One side of things is trying to push things in a direction, the others in another direction, and there's this push and pull, and certain things, even if they come true now, come through into this reality, I forgot a lot of things, so that then I have to write them immediately after I receive them. Certain things I'm being repeated, they are being repeated to me because they're very important. So when I repeat something to you, is because it's important and it's overlooked and it has no solidity in most people's minds. Even if they have an intellectual understanding of certain concepts, they do not embody those things, so therefore that thing is not a truth that it's experienced inside, so therefore that needs to be really anchored, and repetition does this. It's more than just repetition. But let's leave it there. Anyway, so one little thing that made me smile as I was showing this is like, why all religion fail? Why all of them fail? Any idea? Well, if you don't know, it's because all of them are basically focusing on the afterlife, instead of actually using this reality to turn it into the heaven that they all are dreaming and all they're talking about. Going from here to there, it's about bridging something. And this bridging is by action. And now the greatest action of it all is that thing that I always tell you and I annoy you with, which is cleaning oneself, changing things from within, but also in the outside. But the changes that happen on the outside should be usually a consequence of the change that you do inside, because as you change your awareness, so therefore you have access to higher thoughts, then therefore it's like you're going to have better thoughts, concept, solutions for certain problems. And all these things that I talk about, like create space inside yourself, because this is how you're going to actually allow for that awareness to grow inside you. All these things that I'm telling you about, like don't use dry mode as a thing to show somebody that, look, I'm better than you, or doing like an extreme sport. It's all about like all these things are tools to help one grow space inside oneself and actually grow one's awareness and energy. So yeah, and that's why, well, will come a time when religion won't exist. There's no place for it. I mean, because people will live from the truth. So everyone will embody that, and it's a different state. It's a state that I experience. I mean, I don't stay there all the time, but I have the experience of that. At the moment, it's like it comes and goes, in the sense that I know what's the next level of energy, and I know how that feels like, and not just like not knowing the truth, because I know the truth in like this experience as a truth, as what truth is in essence, and there's something that's alive, but I mean as a reality that more people will experience. That's what I'm talking about actually in the end. So yeah, so when you're already at that level, it's kind of like there's no need for religions and all these limitations and like childish thing. I mean, where people think that, I don't know, it's like God is like source is good or bad. This very limited understanding. I mean, if you look around you, you might see, but look, this is happening. A lot of people are dying now, and this and that and blah. It's like, how is God good? Because God is not good or bad, is beyond those things. It's a constructor of experiences, and all parts of all these things are necessary for one to actually understand things about him or herself. Well, ultimately, source to understand itself and experience those concepts, and it needs contrast, and at a certain level of energies this can go like, ooh, a little bit crazy. So yeah, and this can, I mean, this, like I would say the age of innocence in this sense is going to just disappear in the future, and real understanding, living from the truth, it's what's coming next. So as I was saying earlier, it wasn't just like a threshold for me this period of time, but for me, I guess it was even more, it felt even stronger because of all the work and acceleration and all those things behind it. But in general, on the 6th, at least on the 6th of January, I felt again a general threshold. And looking back to what has been the end of 2019, I saw how also around me people felt more relaxed, more comfortable, more calm. A lot of good things happened to them, and they felt more at peace, and they could, I don't know, achieve or do certain things that they have been wanting for a long time. It's just from the 9th of January, things kind of turned, because the other side basically forced itself, just like, no, we're not going to give up that easily. But before going into the unpleasant side of this kind of situation, I want to say that throughout this period of time, this past few months, but actually all these years, but things have been certain patterns, and like the rituals of eating, going out and things like that, when once I would find pleasure and kind of like comfort, just forget about the fact that there's no other things to do this in this world. I mean, I can create, you can work, you can read, you can do a lot of things, and at some point all that thing that could be absorbed is absorbed, and you want something else, that there's no something else, nothing new. And those things, I use that as a way to just like, okay, let's breathe, let's just do something else until we can create a little bit more space, so there's more new things can come. I mean, more new things can come in. But even these things, well, especially since the physical changes which I explained in the last update, were so intense, and continued throughout this time as when I was healing from like the leaky gut, which was not really a leaky gut. That's what's very interesting, because like I was doing my blood test, whatever, things seemed perfectly normal, but I knew that nothing is normal and things are not the same. I mean, even now I know that gluten is a problem and sugar, but gluten is a problem, and there's certain things that my body simply cannot tolerate. But aside from that, it's just also because I couldn't like anymore enjoy to just go to a cafe just to live a little bit. I reached a point where even these things have like we outgrown it. I mean, we have kind of like separate ourselves, I mean, from each other. It's like we let each other go, so to speak, these patterns and me. And I'm fine with it. The problem is that there's not really a lot of new things, experiences of new ways of being to take their place. Well, there are, but there are the threshold of like of a in between, so to speak, this reality and the next. So all these like life things, patterns, it was like it's a process of like we are releasing each other, and it feels calm. It doesn't feel any more restless as it felt before, and also because the continual cleansing, of course, that I did and still do, but it was also because of the cleansing, also these infusions of energy and the growth, the accretion of energy, means that certain things will be overwritten and certain things will become obsolete. So yeah, and so this period of time, the end of 2019, right into the very beginning of 2020, was a really actually good period of time where all these good things happened, and and from the 9th, so to speak, it started to get a little crazy. There's a lot of crazy experience that I don't talk about here. Yes, I put those things in the books for various reasons. I don't want to scare you, and also I don't want to put myself at whatever in unnecessary risks and things like that. But what I can say is this: energetically, there's another like shadow world, so to speak, like a shadow earth, if you want, that is feeding on what's here, especially on the people's life force, and that's lost in different ways. And they always have installations, how they harness that kind of things, and they need a lot of the energy that is whatever is available right now. So there's, let's say, desperate things that are taking place during the night, but much less now. But it happened once, and I encounter sometimes one of these beings and things, and yeah, it's unpleasant. So sometimes loss of energy happens. That's all I can say. But it's not as bad as it used to be, or as often as it used to be. These are just like, now what I've noticed is that it's really when important, like as I said, thresholds happen, not just for me, but in general, available for the entire reality. So yeah, so keep in mind that if weird things happen at night to you, the cleaning process, that's the thing, the cleaning process in all areas is meant to actually help you, shift you, and in another ways to protect you from this kind of raids, so to speak. But as one side is upping its game, the other one does the same. So as I said, things are not fair, so we all do what we have to do. In regards to what I just said earlier about well, certain beings trying to harness the energy from here, from people, it was the end of February, 22nd to 24th of February. It was one particular night where I and my husband, we were basically hunted and chased during the night in our sleeps. We both had the same experience. That's the thing that was not just weird, but was confirming what was going on. It's obviously, for me, this is nothing new, but I'm just telling you this is just to help you understand how certain things work, because certain sabotage, certain things happen in when you leave your body here and you move your awareness somewhere else, because we're not just here. And so during one of those nights, we both, in that particular night, me and my husband, we had the same experience. We had exactly the same experience with the exact same characters. So that was not just a dream. And the thing was that, again, we were trying to be destroyed. And we're furious that we cannot be destroyed. It was really shocking and scary. So this can happen. Hopefully, I hope that not everyone has to go through things like this, but in the context of what's happening right now with the pandemics and things like that, certain things are being pushed forward because there's level of desperation, because things in energy, things grow in energy and they cannot be suppressed anymore. So right now certain things are being pushed, like the weather that you see right now, always being cold after a really warm winter, especially here in the northern hemisphere. So certain things, it's not just one layer, because the changes that are taking place in nature are not just all bad things. They're a part of the actual growth in energy and this cleansing and this restructuring of things. But at the same time, there's moments, because they intertwine the realities. Each reality has a certain imprint, and I can read that, I can see that they have a different energetic imprint. And they actually, although they feel similar, they might feel some storms or whatever, but then again, there are certain things that are very, very, very different, how they feel and how they actually are constructed. So what's happening most of the times is this. But as I said in the previous video, actually, when I was talking about the present situation, from a higher level, beyond all these games, all things are allowed. So for the sake of the story. But going back to what was happening as in February to us, is that actually the whole month of February was weird. And I was hearing people a little bit more panicky, but for me, actually, the information, even now for me, whatever's happening outside, it really feels like a dream, because it doesn't really feel real. And I know some of you might have people that are having the current virus, or people that have died from the situation, but I explain what actually is going on. One thing that I actually want to add to this is 2 years ago, 2 years ago when I made the update for this time, I told you, this is toward the end of that video, it's in the last third or quarter of that video. There was a dream and also an upgrade at the same time, where I talk about being in this reality where everyone is being sick left and right, and I have basically nothing, just I feel like my fingers are a little bit infected, and I'm asked to take some vitamins and things like that. Well, all I can say is this: we reached that time, that timeline. That timeline is intertwined. It is overimposed right now. So the best way you can deal with this thing, except for cleaning yourself, changing your internal direction, which I always say, is take care of your immunity, and take supplements, vitamins, minerals, help yourself. That's what I said also at other times. Because as I said, this is not a fair game. This is not an easy transition towards something where like, oh, all of a sudden this energy becomes available and I'm just going to, just throw my energy in peace and nothing's going to happen to me. And like, look at me, how I'm like a butterfly. No, it's not the case here. This is a really complicated story. So you cannot play this like butterfly, like, no. I mean, if you do that, then, well, other things happen. So, which you don't want to happen. So yes, take care of your immunity system, and when you know that, well, I told you that they target certain genomes and certain types and certain things, but at the same time, the people that live right now, the category is not just with this virus, but in general, are people that are not compatible with one reality or another. So it's like the things that move in one direction, certain people that disappear for that direction, then there's people that disappear for that direction. But then again, there's other direction where those people and things can continue. Anyways, it's complex, but I think you get the idea. So yeah, pay attention to that. It will continue for a while. Things are not going to be the same, I told you. And actually, this is a very clear demarcation point that is like in your face now. It's like there's no turning back from now on. It's like we either move to the next level or certain things will like just fall apart. So yeah, on the 19th of March this year, obviously, I reached obviously another threshold. And this was like something I was explaining to you what happened in December, and then generally what it felt like in January, right at the beginning of January. So this is when, again, it was a physical sensation and experience that was like the ceiling of this reality has been reached. So right now there's a overimposed frequency fence over this whole thing. And this is maintained artificially. Well, it's some kind of technology, but also it is still whatever, because it's not for everyone. Not everyone experiences the same reality. That's actually what's very interesting. Some experience weird, like unpleasant stuff, and others like, but this is great for me. This is peaceful, and what are you talking about? And I'm one of these people, the latter one. So don't feed the beast. Don't put your energy and focus into this crap. Stay away. I mean, be observant, be mindful, be smart about all these things. But as I said, somebody here wants to gain, and it might not be for your benefit, and you might not be with your best interest at heart, you know. So either way, this will actually clear itself out. I mean, this whole situation eventually, because this is not going to be forever. And as I said, this is not always the same reality. That's what's interesting, because it's intertwining, and sometimes a little bit more of this, sometimes a little bit more of that, because there's also this kind of interferences that are still possible because things are not yet at full speed. But as we go through this like really turbulent waters and times, use that energy to change your internal direction, because this is what's going to take you from the chaos to somewhere where it's nice and brilliant and alive. And I've seen that place. And I'm not just saying this is because when there's moments when there's hard for me as well, but for other reasons, in a different context. And I also don't feel like to continue, is like even to make these videos, honestly, sometimes I just feel like, what's the point? I mean, I can write the books, I can collect all the information, go through the process, and at some point release all these things. I can actually make videos about anything else, obviously, without having the obstacles, challenges that I have to go through just to make these kind of things. And the things that I don't talk about, yes, in certain regards, my existence probably it's much easier than most people, but then in other regards, is much more challenging. So yeah, and coming to this, it was a funny an experience, because I want to actually end with this particular experience that happened. So it woke me up in the middle of the night with Source knocking on my door. It's like, so you want out? You're tired, right? Because you said you're tired. You want out. And I was like, and it showed me, it's like, nobody cares. And it's like, but you knew why you came here. And please exit. It's like, if you feel like you can't do this anymore, just here, the door. And it feels like, but that's a little bit unfair. I mean, like, why? I mean, and then it's like, now you understand, now you see how I am. It's just me. There's no support from anyone else. There's just me. So if you expect support for something that is beyond this thing, then you lost. So it's like, it showed me, it's like, I can't, I mean, I already knew that, but it's like, but it also solidified something inside me, with all this obviously thresholds and new layers added to me and things that have activated and continue to do so and strengthen me for what's next and for the next chapter and the more work that is coming and the things that need to be done ahead. So it was very shocking, but then I was reminded of something beautiful and something bright. And then I saw, it's like, so that's me, so that's what I was supposed to bring. And then I just, okay. And then I just came back, and that was it. Anyways, there's many more other things to tell you, but I think I'm gonna leave it here. There's a new blog post, something new to read for you. And yeah, I hope this was interesting and helpful. Stay safe, stay sane most of all. Take care of your health, your immunity, and most importantly, your immunity inside yourself, at the core of your being, and you'll be fine. Yeah, see you next time. Ciao. Something is like, okay, we get rid of this either way. I mean, like this. So as cruel as it seems, there's a purpose for everything.